From the local station, News 4 Jax starts now.
Right now on News 4 Jax, remembering a local firefighter who died on the job yesterday. People are lining up now to honor engineer Michael Freeland. A procession is going to be held as his body is moved from the medical examiner's office to a funeral home on Sutel Drive. Jacksonville Fire Rescue is inviting anyone who wants to pay their respects to line this procession along the streets.
Sky 4 is above the route. You can see that right now. That route is from 8th Street west to Myrtle Street, north on Myrtle to US 1, and then west on US 1 to Sutel Drive. It'll end at the Alfonso West Mortuary. News 4 Jax has crews all along the route. Sky 4 will stay above the procession. Reporter Ann Maxwell is joining us from the medical examiner's office, where she's been speaking with fellow firefighters and Freeland's family. Ann?
Well, certainly a very sad day for JFRD and especially Freeland's family. Many of them are here right now, going to be a part of this procession. I'm told even more of them are over at the funeral home. We're expecting this to get started any minute now. We've got some motorcyclists who are going to be leading the arcade. Also some units with some fire chiefs aboard, and there are going to be multiple units along the route so these firefighters can pay their respects to their fallen brother. This all began in the middle of the night last night around 1 a.m. Freeland was responding to a really bad U-Haul crash near Cecil Airport. He was trying to pull somebody out of the car and then stepped out and collapsed. We're still waiting to learn the cause of death. Here comes the procession right now. I'm going to step out of the way. Got some flashing lights leading this off. Followed by the honor guard, some motorcyclists. This is the honor guard. This is a tradition with JFRD. They have fellow first responders stay with the body of a fellow fallen colleague until they're laid to rest. A spokesperson tells me they're a family at JFRD and they don't want anybody who's fallen in the line of duty to be left alone. So they have been keeping vigil with him since the middle of last night when we first learned of this tragedy. And I've got some more SUVs around here cranking up.
And as we watch the proceedings and the procession getting ready to start here, we know you got a chance to talk with JFRD Chief Keith Powers just minutes ago. How did you feel he is handling all of this?
Well, he's certainly very sad. He said he had just spoken to Freeland's mother not long before, and he says, you know, they have these long shifts, so you're with your fellow firefighters for a third of your life, but then when you learn more about their private life, he says, Freeland was the kind of person who's the same person on duty as off. I've heard from firefighters as well as his family the same things. Everybody talks about his big smile, how energetic he is, how much he loved being a firefighter, and just that he was a really, really nice person. The chief says, you know, obviously this is a tragedy. You never want to see something like this and happen, and so a procession like this is just an opportunity to pay their respects to a fallen hero who died so unexpectedly on the job.
So unexpectedly, and also so young. A second-generation firefighter. Mike Freeland his uncle was also a firefighter. When you talk about the honor guard and this tradition of the person who's lost their life never being left alone, truly significant and emotional.
Absolutely. You know, like I said, they feel like this is a family, and even if it's not a fellow firefighter, they might have somebody from JSO who will sit with them, and the fire department does the same for them if they lose an officer. A really special tradition they have there. And as you mentioned, Freeland was a second generation firefighter. Somebody with the Brotherhood of Firefighters in Jacksonville told me his uncle was actually his inspiration to go into this line of work. I'm told his uncle was a longtime firefighter who had a big smile like his nephew. I'm told the uncle also passed not too long ago, not long after he retired. So this is definitely something that ran in this family.
And we're seeing a little bit of more movement there where you are. Do we know where Freeland's body is at this point? Is it in this line of vehicles that we're looking at right now? And what else can you tell us? Have you seen the family there?
I haven't laid eyes on a hearse just yet. It's hard to see past this convoy of SUVs, but I have seen a bunch of family members here. We kind of wanted to give them their space, but I did speak with one of Freeland's aunts earlier, and she says this just came as a total shock. You know, he was only 36 years old. She says he was just a wonderful nephew, son, brother, friend, the kind of person you could always really count on. She says this is, you know, they were in the twilight zone yesterday when this happened. She says it didn't really seem real to the family until they saw his photo on the news. As I mentioned, she said he was engaged to be married. Apparently the wedding had been postponed because of COVID-19. Here, look, the convoy looks like it's beginning to move now.
A little bit more about engineer Mike Freeland, 36 years old, who did die on the job yesterday while trying to rescue a driver in a crash. He was a firefighter for more than 7 years. He worked at Fire Station 73 for the past 2 years. Speaking to Jacksonville Brotherhood of Firefighter spokesman Terrence Jones, just described him as just being young, full of ambition and vigor, and he was known for his wavy hair and that smile that we keep seeing when we see his photo on our screen. And as we mentioned, you know, his family, not only the firefighters, but also an uncle who also was a firefighter as well.
Here comes the hearse. Engineer Mike Freeland with the Jacksonville Fire Department on his way to the funeral home now, surrounded by family, firefighters, fire chiefs in this procession. About a 15-minute drive through town. More units are going to be posted along the route to pay their respects. Just a devastating loss for JFRD. This is the third line of duty death they've had so far this year. That convoy taking off from 11th Street just now.
You know, I got a chance to speak with JFRD Chief Keith Powers just before he met with the family this afternoon. And I said, if there's anything that Mike Freeland's mother or his family would like to share with us, please ask them if there's something else that we can tell our viewers about him. And she really did, his mother really did share so much information. One of the stories that she told us is that she had him when she was very young. She was 15 years old, and many of the events during high school that she attended, she brought Mike Freeland with her son. And the beauty in what happened because of that, there's an entire community of her friends that she went to school with who helped her raise him. So besides his friends that surround him at this time, her friends who watched him grow up, there's such a tight-knit community there and so many people that are affected by his death that it's not just his mother, his immediate family, who is in such deep grief at this point. It's really that entire year, that entire community that helped his mom raise him.
And as we look at some of the pictures of him as a younger man and also sharing time with younger people who perhaps wanted to be firefighters themselves, we can tell you that, you know, during COVID-19, one of his favorite jobs was to work at Agape Health. And as part of this community, he truly enjoyed being part of the vaccination process and became very good friends with the nurses and some of the other medical staff who were there, extending that love and that graciousness and that family feel to all that he met. And that smile that you see there is what he is so reminded of. People are reminded of him because of that smile. One of the things that was truly just devastating for the firefighters, if you think about, you know, firefighters and them responding to events where, you know, someone has collapsed. When Freeland collapsed yesterday, they tried so hard to bring him back to life, and you can only imagine not being able to revive your own colleague when you do this every single day for those people in the public. And we know that Freeland likely did this for so many other people in the public, helping them at their worst time of need. And unfortunately, he did pass away.
As we continue to watch the funeral procession, another story that his mother shared with the fire chief to share with all of you. They describe Mike Freeland as being born with a servant's heart. Many people talk about friends who do anything they can to help each other. Well, they said that he was just born with that type of heart. And they gave an example. His family said he has a little brother, younger sister, bought their first vehicles for them. Anytime those vehicles had problems, he would race right over and help fix those. And there was one story that his mother shared and said that his younger brother was going to school in Tallahassee. Car broke down, didn't know what was going on with the car, and Mike dropped everything, found a trailer, hooked it to the back of his vehicle, drove all the way to Tallahassee. And it turns out the younger brother just ran out of gas, but had never experienced something like that, so he didn't know what to do. And the point is that Mike dropped everything just to go all the way out there to help his younger brother with what he needed. And it's that kind of servitude that marks Mike's entire life.
Yeah. And if you're along this route, you are encouraged to, step outside. You're looking live here from Sky 4. But if you too would like to pay your respects to Michael Freeland, you're asked to step outside and just take a time and just take a moment to commemorate his life and his service to this community. Of course, this has been a very rough year for the Jacksonville Fire Department, especially when it comes to line of duty deaths. This is the third line of duty death. There were 2 COVID illnesses that also resulted in the deaths. Fire Captain Thomas Barber, 21-year veteran, passed away June 14th. And also 17-year veteran, Lieutenant Mario Moya, died on August the 17th. He was the first in the agency to die of COVID-19, the virus, in the line of duty. And now here in the month of November, a 36-year-old who is described by Terrence Jones, one of his colleagues, as a young man who was visually in better health than most of those in the fire department. Looking at him, he was a young man. So this is just such a surprise. He also mentioned to me that a lot of people in the fire department now are thinking about their health and also making sure that that they're doing all that they can to serve and continue to prosper as long as they can.
And the Freeland family, they have really gone through quite a bit at this point. One of the things that Mike Freeland's mother shared with the fire chief is that she recently lost her own father and brother, and now her son. The brother she lost was George Freeland, retired firefighter, the inspiration for Mike to become a firefighter. So 3 losses in recent days for one family. Many of you may understand what that is like with so many people dealing, especially with COVID now, and losing family members. Medical examiner has not said how Mike has died, but just the feeling of loss, many of you can appreciate and understand.
And as you take a look at the left side of your screen there, you see some of the family members and perhaps members of the community lining the street. And there was a shot just a moment ago of people standing on top of their Jeeps lined up on the side of the road here in this Hogan Creek area with the American flag in honor of Michael Freeland and all that he has done at both Engine 73 with the Jacksonville Fire Department. We know that he was studying as well to be a lieutenant. Such a bright future ahead of him, which has just come as to a shock to so many people that his life was cut so short just yesterday while he was trying to help another person, doing what he does every single day.
the view that you saw just a short while ago, that group of people standing there, they're actually outside, we're being told, the Alfonso West mortuary, waiting for Mike Freeland to be brought there to the mortuary, where he'll remain until he is laid to rest.
If you're just joining us now, you're watching the procession for Michael Freeland, who yesterday died on the job while during an extrication trying to help someone whose car had run into a utility pole. As fellow firefighters were just feet away from him, Freeland collapsed. And as we're told, his colleagues immediately, quote, put their heart and soul, end quote, into trying to revive him, into trying to bring him back to life. Unfortunately, he did pass away, a firefighter for more than 7 years, a second-generation firefighter, studying for his lieutenant rescue exam. Learned a little bit more about what he liked to do in his off time. He really enjoyed football. He was an avid Dallas Cowboys fan. He also worked at the airport, and with the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department, it takes a special clearance to have that airport clearance to work at the airport, something that he enjoyed to do and enjoyed doing, and really worked to get those certifications to be able to handle those emergencies that occur, whether it's on the tarmac or it has to do with airplanes or even when it has to do with passengers.
Really hard worker. The fire chief was explaining to me that Mike would work beyond his regular shift as a firefighter so he could work over at the vaccination site where some of the firefighters had set up to help people become vaccinated. Extra time that he put in to help others once again. He called his mom his angel. They were so close. And the group that you see there is...
Yeah, as we look live there, this is a shot there from the funeral home, the mortuary along the street, where we do see those Jeeps there on the side of the road, and those who are waiting to salute, to pay their respects to this 36-year-old man who dedicated his life to serving you and I here in the community of Jacksonville. At a moment's notice, his friends and colleagues say he would be there for you. And Joy, you told us just about some of the examples of just how selfless he was as a person, and really took the opportunity to express himself through his service.
Listening to the chief explain how Mike's mother described her son, saying that he never got in any trouble growing up, was never a problem, said he had a servant's heart, and an entire community can attest to that because he did whatever he could to help his community besides serving as a firefighter. Any help anyone needed, whether it be family, friends, she says he was there.
And you're looking live from Sky 4 at the hearse, which is carrying Mike Freeland's body from the medical examiner's office to the mortuary, where the Jacksonville Fire Rescue says until he is buried, someone will stay with him until he is laid to rest. A tradition that the fire department and police departments have also committed themselves to. Anyone who has died in the line of duty here in the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department will not be left alone as they remembered their colleague.
We are waiting to hear from the medical examiner's office about how exactly he died. We know it was sudden. The fire chief said he had just stepped out of the ME's office just before the procession, and they're still working on all of those kinds of tests that have to be done, that are routine. But something that you could hear over the phone that made the chief smile is that he said while he was visiting with Mike's family, they were lifting him up as he listened to them reminisce about Mike, talk about the family times together, talk about what a wonderful person he was. The chief saying he already knew what a great worker he was. But he said just being around the family, instead of it being so somber and sad, it was more of a time of of remembrance and reflection and celebrating his life and all of the lives that he touched. And so the fire chief said it felt good to be with the family and how they lifted him up through what is the worst time of their life right now.
Yeah, we heard from firefighters who said that, quote, right now we are hurting. If you see a firefighter that you know, just give them a hug because he or she needs one right now, end quote. Just giving you an idea of just how close-knit. I think a lot of people who live this civilian life and, we have relationships and at jobs and when someone passes away, it's just a shock. But in the medical field and in the fire department field and the police department, there's such a tight-knit community, Joy, that you spoke about that was developed even when he was a young child. So, I mean, his death not only affecting the fire department, but also, the roots in the community everyone that he touched and that he came across in his day-to-day work, remember him for that smile and as his close friend says, his wavy hair. They used to joke about his waves and how did you get your waves so nice. For those who don't know what waves are, if you look at Michael's hair there, it's nicely combed waves on the top of his hair, and he was just known for that energetic, vibrant person that you see there on the left side of your screen.
And I think the more that we are able to talk with people who knew him, the more we're able to ingest what he was all about. We're feeling the same. And I think it's evident as more in the community who may not have known him are leaving condolences and sending out their best wishes to the family. We know that Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry tweeted, "My thoughts and prayers are with JFRD firefighter Mike Freeland, his family, and his brothers and sisters with the department. My family and I are praying for you in this difficult time. Mike, thank you for your service to the city of Jax. May you rest in peace." So I think the reverberation of the effect that he had on so many people, and we're learning so much about him.
Yeah, Randy Wise, president of the Jacksonville Association of Firefighters, also, posting on social media. You might see a lot of these posts throughout the day for Freeland in his honor. A red and black sash slung over a fire engineer's badge. If you see that on Facebook today, if you see that on Twitter or on Instagram here in the city of Jacksonville and throughout the state of Florida, that too is in honor of Freeland and his service. Just another way that people in this community are remembering him and paying tribute to his time and his service.
And when we do focus on the mortuary when his body arrives, we do expect to see such a large group of family and friends, because as we mentioned earlier, it wasn't just his family who raised him, but his mother was a very young mother, and there were so many who stepped in and surrounded her to help. So many who watched him grow up, so many who did what they could to be by her side and help her through the process of raising a son, and she did such a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to all the accolades that are coming in.
And we know that his family has been dealing with loss, also losing George Freeland, who was also a JFRD firefighter, who passed away about a year and a half ago after retiring from the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department. And Joy, as you said earlier, Freeland's uncle, Michael Freeland's uncle George, was an inspiration to him and to also other firefighters who are now in positions of power in the fire department. So it just shows you, the family's impact on the firefighting community and also the local community.
And not only did the family recently lose that uncle, George Freeland, but we also understand that Mike's grandfather, his mother's father, was recently lost. So the family going through quite the time as we watch the funeral procession making its way up to the mortuary The fire chief saying that the more Mike's mom has been talking about him, reminiscing, she's smiling. It's keeping her spirits up, and once again, it's affecting everyone around her, and their spirits are up as well. So,
and as that procession does approach the mortuary and the funeral home, let's listen in. We know first responders throughout Jacksonville, both the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department as well as JSO. I imagine other law enforcement officers who knew him, who have a connection to the fire department, are also paying their respects, as well as family members in their cars, in this line, in this procession, and right there at the hearse with Michael Freeland's body inside.
Flanked by his brothers and sisters in the fire department before him, more following behind. You can see everyone there standing at attention as his body passes by. And once he is brought inside the mortuary, you were talking about how there will be someone standing watch, so to speak, over his body.
Yes, a tradition for the fire department that someone will stay with the body until they are laid to rest. Anyone dying in the line of duty not being left alone. As we know yesterday, his colleagues trying to revive him, and today dealing with the raw reality that he's gone, but leaving behind a legacy of service. So many memories and so many things to speak of. Just a fine young man, described as an energetic, excellent firefighter, a man young, full of ambition, a man young and full of vigor. In a fire department, in a community, in a family, mourning this evening.
And a processional befitting a hero.
Yeah, absolutely. And there you see Chief Powers, members of his immediate family, those in the community in grief, those who just heard about his death and stepped outside.
And we do want to thank Chief Powers as well as Mike Freeland's mother for sharing so many personal stories about Mike and about their family and trusting us with that information. We thank them so much just for opening their hearts and continuing his legacy so we can remember him. We will remember the stories about him. We will remember his personality and his giving spirit.
Just a small group of that extended family, both in the firefighter community, from his work at Agape Health during the coronavirus pandemic, where he helped to vaccinate so many people. You just see his roots, the roots that he has put in the ground. You see that love and you see that support all around him throughout the city of Jacksonville this afternoon.
I must say, Tarek, we have covered quite a few processionals, whether it be for firefighters or police officers, and we usually don't see such a mass of people at the funeral home at this time. I mean, we do for the funeral, we do for the memorial services, for the viewings, but they have come here just in the transferring of his body from the medical examiner's office to the mortuary.
Yeah, less than 48 hours after his death, this outpouring of love and support, just really a testament to who 36-year-old engineer Mike Freeland was and what he's done and what he's left behind as a legacy in the city of Jacksonville.
Folks, we want to thank you for staying with us through that entire procession. If you missed any of it or you would like to share it, we will be posting it in its entirety on News4Jax Plus and News4Jax.com.
You've been watching News4Jax at 4 o'clock. Inside Edition, that's coming up next.